Hello, Editing Heather here, and if you do not care about anything I have to say and just want to see the cover, then it'll be at this timestamp here. Hello! So if you are a musical fan or a Deathnote fan, you may know the existence of Deathnote the musical, and unless you are from Japan or Korea and actually got to see the production, or you managed to pirate a streaming copy, which you now have available, probably won't have seen the actual musical and are basing all your opinions on the American concept album, which, to be fair, it's a pretty good album. However, a lot of the lyrics which people adore so much from the American concept album, including the entirety of Hurricane, do not actually translate to the one that was used in the musical. Now, I, as a fan, decided I am gonna use my definitely not pirated copy of Deathnote the musical from 2015 and do a whole critique of it. Was this an excuse to cosplay as Misa? Yes. Was it also an excuse to do a cover of one of the American concept album songs? Yes. So right at the start we've got the setting the scene, it's just black, there is a clock at the back doing some ticking, and then they're all like get up, along with the clock. That's quite nice. It brings in the Kira motif that will play throughout. It's quite nice musically, the clock's quite good, but to be perfectly honest, having them slowly walk into chairs is just a bit like, okay. It does give me Sweeney Todd vibes, and I do appreciate that. The music is giving me heavy Sweeney Todd vibes. So we're about to go into Where Is the Justice, which is Light's first song, and it's great. I would say it's very boring to watch, honestly. Like, that entire scene, like the scene towards it, the actual song, good music, terrible staging, and I think this is something we're going to come across quite a lot. Good music, awful actual visual. There's no visual spectacle. The only reason I somewhat enjoyed it is because I had a camera like closing in on characters. The audience doesn't have that, because when you're watching the recording you're like, oh well, at least I get to see this guy's expression, but then there's the people in the back. There's the people in the back who cannot see that expression very well, and so all they're seeing is people walking around aimlessly with a load of messy looking chairs. One thing they could have done here is make it look more like a typical debate, because he's standing up and just saying what he thinks, it looks a bit random. Then you can have a lot more like circling, so it looks a bit like the enemies like going at each other. You can have people switching sides. You can have some choreography with all the tables and chairs. That would be nice. In regards to the lyrics of this song, I do like the lyrics in the American concept album, but they are very different because the American version is a lot more capitalist, corporate, blaming celebrities and like looking at how celebrities are not given the same treatment as everyone else when it comes to the justice system. In this version, it's more talking about things like, are wars necessary? Pretty ironic, because essentially what he does later is mass murder. This song is pretty iconic. It's pretty much quite similar to the American concept album. The arrangement's slightly different and the general tone from Rem is a lot more morose. The American concept album, they just went for both of them being pranksters, whereas it's not really true of Rem, and I quite liked the fact that she was quite miserable throughout the entire song. They look incredible, especially Rem. She looks gorgeous. Right at the start, Ryuk just like pops up from underneath the stage and it's great. However, I also have the same issue. The staging is poor. The characters are great, but they're not even on the same bit of the stage. They're on like two separate areas, so they can't even interact properly. You need to have one stage or like one bit which they can interact, and then because Ryuk's the jokester and he's just wanting to play around, you could totally get him like dancing and trying to be all crazy with Rem just stood like they're meant to be death gods. You'd think there'd be something interesting going on, but there just isn't. There's this little introductory song right before we get into Hurricane, or In the Korean version, I think they just called it Deathnote, and I have to say, the Korean like music video performance, incredible. You need to watch it. I think his name is Kwang Ho Hong, but that's just by memory. It's probably very wrong, I'm sorry. It can be so simple, that song, I think, because it is about this person's inner turmoil. And when I say it's different from Hurricane, Hurricane is very much the American, I'm amazing, look at all this power, I am the hurricane. Whereas the Deathnote's more like, am I a murderer? Have I just done that? I mean, maybe it's a good thing. I quite like that. It's more real. I feel less like I've just stumbled into someone just looking at themselves in the mirror. I don't think he'd do that, at least not at the start. Maybe later. During this song, I did like the background. They had like the names slowly appearing, and it sort of represented the passage of time, but also the passage of his mentality from being like, oh my god, am I a murderer, to let's just write all these names. Then Ryuk and Light meet, and honestly, Ryuk is just giving paint me like one of your French girls energy, and it is everything I needed. So then we come into the song Kira. There's Ryuk talking about how he's met Light, I guess. I quite enjoyed some of this song. Silhouettes in the background of the chorus looked great because then it was sort of like nameless people chanting Kira. After a while, they start doing this like Kira, Kira. This movement, and it's not good. It looks really weird. And I just sit there like, I just want you to stop. Honestly, don't do anything. I know that I may have said that in the first song the chorus needed to do something, but no, here, stop. The other thing I would note is that once again, acting in the scene, like the scenes before the songs, pretty good I would say. During the song, they do feel very much like they don't know what they're doing. Like they learnt the song, and then the director just went, just wander about. Needed to really go with the whole Light's scared of Ryuk. Like, Ryuk kind of chasing after him and maybe not even understanding that he's scaring Light. Because there's this wonderful moment where he sort of grabs his arm and forces Light into this weird dance, and I was like, this is amazing. This is like Mushnik and Son from Little Shop of Horrors energy, and I'm here for that. But why couldn't they do this for the rest of the song? Why is it like a 2-second bit which looks great in comparison to this pile of... This song is filled with bad moments and then has like one great moment, and then it's like, okay, don't give it to me then. Take away the good moment and I probably wouldn't have noticed how bad it was. There is choreo! Finally! Finally! There is good choreography. There isn't a weird... Lean. We have... Misa, I'm ready. Oh my god, honestly, if they had an American concept album version of this song, I would do this song, because she raps. She's like, I'm ready, go, go, go. This song is just so perfect for her. There's choreo, it highlights her energy through the first like moment you see her. It's great. Hero. A song from, I think, Sayo, Light's sister, to Light, about Light, and about how Light would never do anything like Kira. Obviously Light is Kira, so it's interesting. The relationship is very interesting there, and then you've got this weird dynamic because Light's getting uncomfortable and then Ryuk is sort of like just sat in between them, but obviously Sayo doesn't even know Ryuk's there. And then Misa coming round and sort of singing the song as well because she's also thinking about Kira. I like that. Harmonies would have probably fixed a few things as opposed to them singing in unison. Until this point, we are 30 minutes into the show and we have not met L. The scene where you do meet L is pretty much the same sort of vibe as like any version of it. It's the same, pretty much the same scene. However, we're gonna find my first pet peeve of this musical, in this scene, and that is the policeman. Soichiro is okay, but throughout, they just deaden everything. Every scene, they just make everything fall flat. Interesting thing that's going on with like L, Kira, and thingy. Grey. Just grey, boring entities. Then we have The Game Begins, which I think is a great song. In the actual American soundtrack, they make this very much like robotic. The way he sings is like very much about data and analytics. But in the musical, like in the actual musical, he's far more emotionally driven. The American media, when you get detectives, a lot of the time they are very like Sherlock Holmes, House, very just unemotional, getting the job done. But L in this is just not, and I quite like that because he gives the impression of someone who would talk all data and not be very emotional, but he is, whereas Light is the impression of a charming, emotional guy, and he ends up not being that. His song is very simple. He starts off sat, crouching, and he is singing while crouching. Very impressive, I have to say. Good technique, good control. I feel like there needs to be a little bit more visually. First saw this scene, I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. The song's alright, don't need much going on. But then when you see the exact same thing 4 scenes later, you just like, just do something else. Do something else, mate. Then we have a chorus interlude of the Kira, Kira, yet again. However, this is good. Kira, Kira, Kira. Sharp movements, quite like it. The Soichiro duet with Light about Kira and about how like disagrees with Kira and telling Light that Light needs to be the god of his own universe, thinking that he means like law-abiding, like you are your own person, but really Light's taking it as like, yeah, I'm a god. I actually like this scene. I like the fact that Soichiro is a very like standing still kind of guy, because I can see that. It's like one of those few cases where I can agree that a scene works when it's more static, whereas a lot of the time when things are very static, which this show is very static, it gets very dull to watch. Secrets and Lies. I like this song a lot. It has a lot of references to Game Begins melodically. L on his chair. He's like a cat, he just keeps moving positions and eating things, and I love it. There's also this beautiful visual at one point, where obviously they're not in the same place, but you have him sat on his little throny chair thing, crouching as normal, and then you have Light come around the back, and he's stood, and he's sort of like doing this, and vaguely glancing down, and it is a beautiful visual. The police, I could do without. But my thing is, if you're not gonna look good, get off the stage. They were used poorly. It is, a lot of it will be the directing problem. So the train scene is basically done very quickly. It's very stylized because it has to be short. They can't have hours and hours on this one thing. The show is 2.5 hours and you're already like reaching up to an hour by this point. So that is actually a very stylized scene. Like, it's clear that the way he's being portrayed, he's under the Deathnote's power, I suppose. It's a lot more physical, and that makes it more interesting. Oh my god, thank god we finally have a scene which isn't just people stood talking at each other. Change the World, which is the policeman, that is basically them deciding whether or not they're gonna stay on the team. And honestly, like, it's simple, it's not that bad, it's quite a short song, which is probably why it works. If it was any longer, I think I would have needed something more. Where is the Justice reprise? I like this, apparently. I don't remember this, to be honest. I will say this, I don't remember this scene, so it clearly didn't stand out too much, but I remember enjoying it. Act 2, I'm just gonna skip to Mortals and Fools, which is a song between Rem and Misa, where Rem is warning Misa against trying to find Kira, whereas Misa's determined. I like this, it's quite simple, but it works because honestly, Rem and Misa are great actors. The people they chose in the Japanese show, I don't know about the other shows, but in this, they are very nice. And they do sort of dance around each other a bit, like very simple moves. But it's pretty, and I like looking at it. Stalemate. So, L, I like. I like him during the scene, however the police, yet again, are bringing it down. They are very much just like stood randomly. I think they needed to be centered more around L, to have L and then have like a little semicircle of them, and then when L moves forwards they can all sort of like awkwardly shuffle behind him like, oh, we have to trust this guy. When he starts to blame Soichiro's son, Light, all the police officers can go against him, so then it's like, because in the show they do this thing where it's like, I'm pretty sure that Kira is your son, and it's like, he's all the way over there. Why? Just be closer to him. I would love it if at that moment they were actually physically close to each other, and when he's like, I'm pretty sure that Kira is your son, in the Japanese of course, he sort of like maybe straightens Soichiro's tie or something, so it gives this like weird dynamic that's kind of like off, and then it makes him seem a lot more patronizing to Soichiro and the rest of the police officers, and then all the police get behind Soichiro and like it's like them versus him sort of thing. That would be really nice. Like, can the cops have more energy? Please, just have more energy on stage. It would be so much more visually engaging if they just had some intention, but they do feel like they're very just stood there. During the song Stalemate, I like L and I like Light. I hate the staging. Once again, we've got them on two separate ends of the stage, like not even on a full stage. They're on these like two little things and they're stood there, so they can't even reach each other if they wanted to. They need to be giving me, we're in the same friend group but we secretly hate each other while taking selfies vibe. Please give me that Mean Girls vibes. That is kind of what they are. They're trying to fake being friends. Like, give me that. Don't just give me brooding in separate corners of the stage. I'll Only Love You More, which is Misa's song, Two Lights Like a Secret Message. I like the recording studio, very nice. And I like Rem trying to embrace Misa throughout the song. Nice foreshadowing. Nice foreshadowing. Things Are, which is by L. It's a good song. But yeah, it's very much the exact same as The Game Begins visually. He stands up at one point and starts walking like what? Why? Just give him things to interact with, please. Give like interesting visuals on the back. Don't just like have it a black background. You've got a massive screen, use it. Take inspiration from The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. That's you could take so much from there, like the visual effects, the things that you can interact with. That would be so cool, but it's just boring. Then we have chorus walking a lot, and it's messy. Got these like hit points where they're supposed to be like do 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 sort of thing. There is one chorus member who is phenomenal. She's wearing short shorts and like heels. She looks great. The rest of them either all do it or none of them do it. When Misa and Light finally meet, they're really cute. I like it. I like their interaction. And also Rem and Ryuk have some nice moments. But this is like the scene acting, not the music acting. The musical numbers are the problem. That's, I think, the thing that really makes it kind of a not great musical, because if you're doing a musical, a large portion of it is the musical numbers. That needs to be a priority. But here it just feels like they had the music and then they couldn't be bothered to choreograph anything. They couldn't be bothered to stage anything properly. It's on a bound. Soichiro trying to be like, my son would never do that. Good song. I think he needed to have a bit more visual, emotional, like panic, turmoil. Like maybe start off serene and calm and then start getting more jittery, wondering about a bit more, and then towards the end go like, no, he is on a bound and whatever the heck it is. But other than that, like, really well delivered. I like that song. It's really nice, pretty. Playing his game. The chorus actually looks pretty decent in this because they have something clear to do. I feel like that's a lot of the problem, is that a lot of the time they don't have a clear purpose, they're just there. I am never going to say that this scene is bad because this is a great scene. They are playing tennis while singing. This is the energy I need because this song, obviously they don't have like a real tennis ball, but they're like doing slow-mo, they're like proper getting them shots, and I'm like, this is the directorial effort I need throughout the rest of the musical, guys, please. Now, borrowed time is Misa being tied up and being interrogated. So she cannot be moving. She's tied up, like she's tied. She can't move. The moments when it breaks from the song to the actual interrogation, I need more from Light, I need more from the police officers. They're all above. So you've just got her on a cross, like tied up with Rem circling, and them at the top. I like the visual they were going for. It does work, but if they're doing that, they need to be more active up there, because otherwise I can imagine being an audience member without the visual close-ups and camera pans and things, and it being really boring to look at. When Love Comes is Rem's song about Misa, when Rem's like admitting that, yeah, she will do anything for this girl. This is stunning. And this is so simple because Rem doesn't have a lot to do. Misa's still tied up. Rem's just like sort of like stroking Misa's hair and like sort of sitting around her like, oh my god, I'm in love with this human. And that works because her acting is wonderful. She is interacting with what is available to her, which is Misa. She's also moving with intent. You can wander around a stage, but you need to have a reason for it. It gets boring watching him walk. I need him to do more than just a very, very slow walk. When he's singing, he could just have more contrast between the slow walk so you can see more of a difference between like the inner turmoil versus like this facade of calm that he's putting on. That would be nice, but no, everything's just slow. The way it ends, there's too much staring. Too much staring from a distance. I want them closer. I want them to move to each other, to be circling each other like a predator and prey. I want them to give me Glee, Santana and Nortz's face from the Smooth Criminal cover. And that's better than what they're doing now. I do think the ending is interesting. It makes L shoot himself. I have to say, this ending really interests me because in a lot of the endings, the reason that Light dies is because he's already on the way to being dead. In this version, Light isn't dying. Then he says, no, we can just get back to normal, and Ryuk's just there like, I'm kind of bored of that. Ryuk's done of this game. And when he's done of a game, he gets rid of it. It's a nice character moment, which sort of creates an interesting ending. I quite like. I know some people complain, oh, Light always dies, but like, yeah. Right at the end, Light's body is lying there, right? And Ryuk gets an apple out of Light's pocket. What an icon. Actually, really beautiful. It's like a hymn. Like, it's literally written to sound like a hymn, which is interesting because Light's whole goal was to be a god, and now he's got a song sort of about him, giving him that godlike status. Really nice. It ends with Sayo and Soichiro like looking down at these two people being dead, and then Misa like at the top. So overall, music? Good. Choreography? Not good. Acting in the actual spoken scenes? Good. Staging? Overall, not good. If it was more interesting, I feel like then they might actually go, you know what, let's take this over to American audiences, but it's just visually not there. Let me put on a show of it and I'll show you what to mean. No. At least Misa lived, because like, what an icon. I will leave it there, and then future Heather will give you a nice little song cover.
Look at how they crawl around upon the ground like little ants. Yes, but how they fascinate, confusing fate with what is merely dance. Isn't it a laugh? Isn't it a shame? Thinking there is someone in heaven to blame. Yes, but even while blaming fate for the lives that they lead, they hope for the lives that they need. Living every day till the day they die, never getting answers, yet still asking why. Going through the motions as if there will be a reward, while we stay eternally bored. They're only human, they don't see who they are is who they'll always be. Only human after all. So they push and they shove with this thing they call love till they fall. Isn't it a farce? Isn't it a waste? Struggling to face what can never be faced. Yes, but maybe death can release something more than we share. I really don't know and don't care. They're only human, standing still, doomed to live pushing boulders uphill. Only human after all. So they give and they take, hoping someone will help break their fall. They will pray, curse, live, die, never knowing that truth is another man.